170 hectares of Greenpoint was sold to the Belmont-based building company Macloys on Tuesday. Its future use is yet to be determined. Lake Macquarie Council believes the Greenpoint site is worth about $4.9 million. It'll decide on Monday night if it should try to buy the property.
We are assessing the property at $4.9 million, and on the basis of that assessment we will be putting forward our plan for acquisition.
The state government would have to contribute about $2 million to the project. However, for Macloys to part with its newly acquired property, it wants substantially more than the council figure.
It's not for sale at $4.9 million. Council has been talking on and off for many years about purchasing of it. But our notes indicate that it's beyond the capacity of council to buy that.
Macloys' preferred option is to develop the site for residential and commercial use, but that would require the land to be rezoned. In return, Macloys would give a large portion of Greenpoint to Lake Macquarie Council. If the rezoning doesn't go ahead, Macloys plan to develop the site under the current zoning regulations. A caravan park and an aged care hostel would be the first properties to be built on the Greenpoint site. Jane Anderson, NBN News. At present, contaminated medical waste such as syringes and surgical gowns are transported to Sydney and incinerated. The Cleanaway company manufactured an innovative method of getting rid of this rubbish. Sealed garbage is fed into the mobile unit. It's shredded and then microwaved. Heat disinfects the waste. The system was recently tested by the Environment Protection Authority and the New South Wales Health Department. Today, the findings of the 6-week trial at the John Hunter Hospital were presented.
It's not only safe, but it's also very effective. So we're quite pleased with the result.
A day's waste from the John Hunter can be disinfected in just 4 hours. The system produces 80% less rubbish for landfill. The unit was powered in Germany and is in use in Europe and the United States. Now that it's been given the green light, the Cleanaway company plans to tender for medical waste contracts. It hopes to treat the waste from hospitals in the Hunter region. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The residents' woes began a few months ago when blasting started in what they believe to be a disused quarry, the last series of blasts occurring in 1980. Earlier this year, Don Island took over the lease of the 14-hectare quarry to extract hard rock for his quarry mix business. In September, Don conducted 6 blasts in 2 days. Nearby resident Peter Griggs claims this caused the damage to houses.
The house was damaged in 1980, has now been damaged again in the same way. And secondly, all the houses which have been damaged suffered damage in a time frame which is coincident with the last series of blasting.
Mr Griggs says the action group complained to council, who then contacted the Environmental Protection Authority. As a result, blasting stopped while the situation was investigated.
All the blasts have been monitored and we are well within the prescribed limits of what's been set down by the EPA.
With word this week blasting is to recommence, the residents are up in arms, saying their concerns have fallen on deaf ears. Council says their hands are tied.
Obviously, council has got to act in the interest of its residents and ratepayers, and I can assure you we will do that. But we also have to act in Mr Island's interest, because he has rights as the operator of that quarry.
Despite this, the action group have enlisted the help of a solicitor and established a fighting fund to stop the blasting. Mr Island says he's willing to talk to the residents to find a compromise or an alternative to blasting.
For many holiday makers, Port Stephens is known as the Blue Water Wonderland. For whoever's name comes out in the Art Union draw during NBN's telethon appeal on March 12th and 13th next year, Port Stephens will be home. This 4-bedroom house in Corlett is first prize in the Chance of a Lifetime Art Union. From the rooms with the view to the swimming pool out the back, the home is designed for quality of life, which is what the telethon is all about. It's to raise money to help fund the fight against cancer in the Hunter and northern New South Wales. To help with the cause, the house and everything in it, right down to the kitchen sink, has been donated.
A staggering number of people, companies, dozens of companies involved.
With the keys to the house now handed over, the $2 tickets are on sale.
The number of tickets actually printed this time is 600,000, has the potential of raising $1.2 million.
About 230 soldiers marched through the streets of Coffs Harbour. The troops are usually stationed between Taree and Murwillumbah. Today they took part in a military ceremony which dates back to the 16th century. The custom began in England when soldiers' credentials were checked as they marched through a city, recruiting members to bolster their ranks. Today members of the 41st Battalion were challenged as they marched through Coffs Harbour. The procession was then able to continue.
The Hunter Valley Club's annual Sprint Carnival has grown in stature, and this weekend numbers are up once again. This is one of the lead-up race weekends to the World Championships, and paddlers from the Australian Institute of Sport, Queensland, the home state of New South Wales, and a multitude of internationals are keen to capture spots in the Australian team. Competitors such as Steve Wood, an Olympic bronze medalist, local Aussie rep Shane Shuska and the national under-22 development squad are going head-to-head, and today's racing featured single kayak and pairs for both men and women. Still on the water and at Nobby's Beach, the first day of the Newcastle Wave Ski Classic. Powerful conditions made riding the wild surf a difficult proposition, and long impressive rides smattered with exciting manoeuvres were a rarity. In the seniors, current Australian champion Steve Bailey from the North Coast in the blue singlet shone out, as did Les Smith in the red, and both advanced to the next round. In the other heat, local lad Mark Sullivan in blue and Chris Cook, also of Newcastle, won through. At District Park, the McDonald's Country State League tennis titles got underway, with 6 teams from New South Wales country regions and 2 from Sydney battling for places in tomorrow's finals. The Hunter team had a mixed day, losing the under-14s and 18s to Wollongong while winning the 16s. For the North Coast, a big day. Victors in all 3 divisions by big margins over the Northwest.
It's taken a week to whittle down the field of 104, only Tasmania and South Australia not represented. Banana benders dominated the final series, Noel Woods winning the 8-foot division. Co-Queenslander Ray Gleave took out the 9-footers. Local rider Wayne McCleary from Port Macquarie was second in that division. Shock of the day, Port Macquarie's Jenny Sheehan was supposed to take out the women's title, but someone forgot to tell Sandy Day. No prizes for guessing where she's from. Queensland, of course. Still in the water, barefoot skiing on the Clarence River at Grafton. Burnt feet, the legacy of great speed with no ski. A couple of mishaps today. Injured skiers towed to shore after nasty falls. Thankfully, they weren't seriously hurt. Several classes were run, including unlimited, women's and juniors.
Brainchild of local four-wheel drive manufacturers and Port Macquarie businessman Ian Adams, the popularity of today's expo far exceeded all expectations.
Which is probably doubled what we had anticipated. But the great thing about it is we're drawing people from so far, I mean, from all over New South Wales as far as Queensland. It's been a great success.
Designed to give the growing number of four-wheel drivers information on the developments in the industry, visitors to the expo were given the chance to test drive the latest models. A special course was erected for the expo, complete with sand traps, log bridges and rock climb obstacles, all set to demonstrate the capabilities and versatility of off-road vehicles. With today's success, organisers are hoping to extend the expo to a 2-day event next year.
A carbon copy of yesterday, big waves offshore heralding another sporadic performance from the top-class field. Denning in white started his day in the junior final, tussling with brother David. Lee won that brotherly bout to take the under-18 title. Denning then made it a double, beating Sydney's John Christensen to win the Open's crown. Current World and Australian Open champ Rhys Duncan Jr. could only manage a disappointing fourth. In the Women's Open final, Lisa Ryan from Port Stephens the victor. She's the current national champion. And something completely different at the District Park Courts at Broadmeadow, the finals of the McDonald State League titles. Results of the teams: in the under-14, South Coast beat the State Talent Squad 11-4, and in the under-18s, the Talent Squad beat the Hardcourt team 11-5. The champagne will flow tonight. Local skier Chris Webb staved off the international field to win the Men's Open division. Second was Damien Carl, a skier from Morpeth near Maitland. Italy's Toto Kamai was third. Earlier in the day, Webb wrapped up first place in the 20-24 men, while Carl grabbed second in the 16-19 boys division. The Women's Open final was dominated by the United States, although early favourite Debbie Norblad had to be content with third place. Shelby Gardabeline and Cheryl Ruston fought it out for first, the former coming out in front by 1.04 seconds. Spectators didn't have to wait long for a spectacle. Local driver Matt Burns, an early casualty. The modified race ended up a two-way tussle between American champion Barefoot Bob McCready and former state and national champ Tony Hopping, the Australian winning the wheel-to-wheel finish. Equally hard, the super sedans. Champagne racing from the big names. The honours divvied up between John Brown, Dubbo's Mark Blyton and Ron Pine. As usual, big hits in the demolition derby, but Darren McGrory was the last one left on four wheels. He mangled Graham McNamara's machine to take home the $1,000 first prize. It took Marconi 55 minutes to score against the Breakers. But Newcastle never stopped. Never scored, but never stopped. So laments Breakers manager Bruce Stowell.
Created probably more chances in those two games we've done all season, but we can't find the back of the net.
Thanks to that lack of finish, the Breakers are now third from the bottom of the National League. But the coach says he's happy with the team's progress. He says it won't be long now.
Somebody's going to get a 3 or 4 goal hammer in, and it will be only just desserts, but unfortunately it'll be them and not the teams that we should have beaten in the past.
In the meantime, the key word is patience.
The players will be patient, I will be patient. Obviously the public will be impatient for results.
The Breakers have a clean bill of health on the injury front. Their next clash is on Friday, a home game against NSL newcomer Morwell.
A Belmont tyre centre on the Pacific Highway was the last to feel the sting of the arsonist. Spare tyres used to fuel the blaze, which caused thousands of dollars damage. It was the third call within hours for fire units. Earlier, the Christian Outreach Centre next to the fire station had been set ablaze. Just minutes later, a 15-year collection of musical instruments was ruined in a fire at Belmont TAFE. Earlier this month, 2 similar blazes at an Ampol service station and the Bayside Tavern at Warners Bay, both believed to have been started in waste bins. Detectives haven't ruled out the possibility that the same person is responsible for the attacks. A special task force has been set up investigating a number of similarities between the blazes. Police say all of the fires have occurred late at night, rubbish being used to light them. Despite the trail of destruction, no one has been hurt, but fire units say it's only a matter of time.
Our major concern is that we might end up having a fire in the not too distant future involving people within the dwelling.
Police have appealed for anyone with information about the fires to contact Crime Stoppers on 008 025 122. A reward of up to $1,000 is being offered. Matthew White, NBN News.
Classroom studies for these Year 7 students took on a different approach today as more than 100 potential designers challenged their wits and imaginations on water. The aim? To make a vessel capable of sailing from one side of the pool to the other without its crew getting wet. Design and technology has been introduced to the school syllabus only this year, and according to head teacher Carolyn Clausen, the subject goes beyond the textbooks.
And we're looking at developing students for the 20th century and to make them suitable for employment in the 20th century, and we're looking at increasing their problem-solving ability, working cooperatively in a teamwork, because we find that employers, that's one of the key things, is to be able to work and put all the brain power together.
With natural hazards like a blue-ringed octopus and seaweed to contend with, just how successful was the challenge?
We had several teams get across very well. Two we noticed were sabotaged very early in the piece. One of our problems was a few teams did succumb to the shark, which was quite a feat because they actually had to go through shark-infested waters and there are other creatures floating around that made it fairly difficult for them to achieve that challenge.
Green Point was the issue which dominated last night's council meeting. Mayor Doug Carley says the site should be publicly owned and there should be no development there. Council resolved to prepare a draft local environment plan which would facilitate the acquisition of the land. The decision has been welcomed by Marg Seacombe, President of Green Point Action Group.
I think this is the first positive step we have really seen, whereby there's a plan to be put on public display where the whole area is to be declared open space. The public will have the opportunity to comment, but this time not to comment on a housing development, but to comment on a regional bushland park.
However, Independent Alderman Bob Toussis believes the money could be better spent elsewhere.
We should not be spending ratepayers' funds to purchase Green Point. We've got 190 kilometres of dirt road in 3rd Ward and 1st Ward and the rest of the city. That's a higher priority virtually than buying land.
Instead, Alderman Toussis would like to see the council adopt the developer's proposal to have the land rezoned in return for a portion of Green Point. Marg Seacombe says that's not the gift it seems to be.
It's the identical plan that 4 years ago was put on public display. It's no gift to the people of Lake Macquarie. That plan is for $200 million worth of tourist development, for a major housing development over at least half of the area. All that's left is the undevelopable bits in between.
Claremont House is the ultimate delight to both conservation architects and archaeologists. Its history dates back to 1843, when Alexander Brown built the Georgian residence and then sold the property to William Crosehill and his family. The house boasts many features, including an original staircase made out of sturdy Australian cedar. The restoration program is a demanding task. Each day, workers painstakingly remove floorboards and joinery piece by piece and are amazed by their findings. Despite major earthquake, white ant and termite damage, historical artefacts are being discovered on a daily basis. They're everyday keepsakes from years gone by.
Only today we found a ticket to a grand cricket match between Newcastle Cricket Club and the Ironclad Cricket Club of the 1880s.
The house is the property of the adjacent Newcastle Club, and concerns have been expressed surrounding finders keepers. But according to conservationist architect Barney Collins, the public will be able to see the end result.
Certainly allay those fears. There's no doubt that Newcastle people will be able to see the artefacts. We've already discussed with the Regional Museum them having a look at and determining what they would like to show of the artefacts. Also, the club is preparing for an open day once the restoration is complete, so people can come in, have a look at what the work has been done.
In drizzly conditions, the Tanilba Bay woman was driving along the Nelson Bay Road towards Newcastle just after 2 o'clock when she collided with an oncoming truck.
At a point coming around this bend here, the driver has drifted across the centre lines, whereas collided with that semi-trailer that was heading towards Nelson Bay.
Traffic was disrupted while state emergency service rescue crews, police and ambulance officers worked to free the trapped woman and her male passenger. Both were transported to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. The driver is in a critical condition, while the passenger is being treated for limb fractures. The truck driver escaped unharmed. Investigation into the accident is continuing, but police say this stretch of the Nelson Bay Road is not considered a black spot.
I haven't done an accident here. I've been in the section for about 4 years now and haven't done an accident at this point. The roadway looks quite a good road here.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Timbertown has been drawing visitors since 1976 as a living museum of Australia's cultural heritage. But the recession is continuing to have an impact on the tourism industry, and the Wauchope attraction has felt the pinch.
Tourism is down to the area. We realise that things are tough throughout the whole of the Hastings, and Timbertown is affected by that too.
Timbertown is an asset of Hastings Council, which this week decided not to write off a $545,000 debt owed by the attraction. Timbertown is to meet its challenges head-on by closing to tourists on its least popular day, Saturday, and using the facilities for different functions on this day.
If someone wants to book Timbertown to open it just exclusively for themselves, that will be available. We'll be also catering to weddings, to night functions, in a much more aggressive way than we have been doing so far.
Hastings Council has also approved $50,000 capital improvements for the attraction over the next 3 years. It's planned Timbertown's successful bakery will expand to serve areas like Kempsey and Taree.
The recently retired head of the Department of Infectious Diseases in Sydney's Prince Henry Hospital, Professor Clem Borton, last night addressed a gathering in Port Macquarie. Professor Borton pointed out that immunisation has prevented more suffering and saved more lives than any other medical intervention this century. It's one of the safest procedures in modern medicine. Yet surveys show that 10% of Australian children aged under 7 have not been immunised against diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough or polio.
A lot of young parents have never seen what polio and meningitis and whooping cough can do. They just do not realise how terribly severe these infections can be.
Professor Borton says breakthroughs in immunisation are being made constantly, and it's important for doctors, community nurses and pharmacists in regional centres to keep abreast of the developments.
One of these is a vaccine against an organism called Haemophilus influenzae. And this is an organism which causes a lot of illness in children under the age of 5 years, particularly meningitis, and also a condition called epiglottitis.
Coomera Wangari is made up of 17 students from Karua Primary School. The group was formed through the Karua Aboriginal Homework Centre under the coordination of professional dancer Aaron Ping. The students performed traditional dances of a Central Australian tribe, taking the Dreamtime stories to the classrooms throughout the Hunter region. Year 1 students from New Lambton Primary have been studying and researching Aboriginal culture, and today's performance allowed a closer view and helped to strengthen cultural awareness of traditional dance, music and costumes. The group's efforts didn't go unrewarded. Money raised from today's show will go towards the purchase of more equipment for the Homework Centre. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
The Stockton and Shortland RSLs and the BHP Recreation Club will host 8 former Australian champions and a group of players with a world ranking. One young man who will be trying to beat the best is Maitland's University nursing student Grant Schubert. It seems an odd mix, but the trick is juggling a career and a passion.
I'll have to balance them pretty well 50-50. Sometimes before a tournament I tend to concentrate more on the snooker, so my studies fall down a bit. But
Grant has been in good form with 4 tournament wins in recent days, but is under no false illusions as to his chances, as the competition is pretty tough.
Stuart Lawler, Quinton Hand, both very good under-18 players. Paul Bowser, Roger Fairbrother, he's the winner of the New South Wales State Open.
Alan McIntosh playing?
Yeah, Alan will be playing. Yeah, Duncan Kerr, very good Newcastle player.
And I suppose it's
The trend in recent years is for our traditional multinational companies to streamline and shed jobs.
We are seen as a small business which provides employment opportunities for people to be entrepreneurial. This is where the future of Australia lies and where the jobs will be for our children in particular.
Mr Gray also believes it's small and medium businesses like Newcastle manufacturer Budpack which will play a major role in boosting our export market and economic recovery.
More businesses are being successful because they're flexible, they're innovative, they have the new technologies and they are working together as a team.
Mr Gray was here to acknowledge Budpack's contribution to the export market, presenting the company with a certificate for its nomination as a finalist in the Australian Export Awards. Budpack specialises in manufacturing packaging machinery used in the automatic filling of bags and palletisers for export products like sugar. Since it began in 1974, Budpack has tapped into the lucrative export market and now has an annual turnover of $10 million, 50% of that earned from overseas sales, especially to Southeast Asia. Budpack Managing Director Robert Brooke says the markets are there to be tapped into.
I think too little importance has been shown by Australian manufacturers in the export market. They are taking some initiatives now that maybe they should have been taking 10 years previous.
Budpack executives will attend a function in Canberra tomorrow where the national winners of the Export Awards will be announced. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
It was a setback the Central Coast Volunteer Rescue Squad didn't need. Just weeks before the busy holiday period, vandals raided the squad shed at Wyong, going on a messy rampage and using food as their weapon. Trucks and equipment were trashed in the attack, leaving volunteers amazed at the heartlessness of the vandals.
Yeah, all our drive reviver equipment that we use to supply coffee to people to hopefully stop mob accidents have all been trashed and thrown all over the place. Our drink machine wrecked. It's pretty pitiful, it really is.
It's not known why the rescue squad was targeted. The vandals escaped with only $20 cash after breaking open the drink vending machine with an oxyacetylene torch. Volunteers say the mess will cost more than $5,000 to clean up. Matthew White, NBN News.